strengthen, stretch, and smile. We are back with Halloween Fit Fun. I've done this, I don't know how many years, guys. I can't really count that high, but we're going to be doing a lower body Catwoman cat stretch workout. It is a yoga strap stretch workout. I'll be doing it with a cat whip. I won't be talking during the workout. I'm experimenting with the audio. I've been finding my audio when I talk during the workouts, it's not coming out that clear, so I'll be adding it in after. Let me know in the comments if you like it this way. If you do, then I'll continue to film it this way. Let me know what you want to see next, and I will be live once a week on Wednesdays. Also during Halloween, I might change the times just to accommodate how long it's going to take, and I might be live for a few hours getting ready in full costume. So follow along, grab a strap. If you don't have a strap, just grab a towel or a t-shirt or an old pair of leggings, and we're going to start on all fours. And start out with a nice big deep breath in as you arch your back, and exhale as you round it. I've got my hands underneath my shoulders, my knees underneath my hips, and I'm going to really take an exhale and an inhale. Try to mobilize through your spine, spread through your fingertips, and really spread through your tail. We're going to move on to our sexy cat. Start to move into a round and an arch circular motion. Just do your best. You will feel a little bit silly when you first start doing this move. And now go ahead and take it in the other direction. Try to just let your neck release on down. And speaking of cats, there's one. We are going to move into our hip circles. I'm dropping down to my elbows, and I'm going to be making big circles. My hips are moving a little bit, but I'm keeping them as still as I can. Think about circling that knee around and around inside that hip socket. Circle in the other direction. Big circles around, 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 and around. Moving on to the other leg. Big circles around, 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 and around. Now the other direction. Just keep thinking about pressing into both arms equally. Engage that core and try to think about circling that leg around inside that hip. Take a quick little child's pose. Go ahead and have a seat, grabbing one knee, bringing it towards your chest and giving it a hug. You can sit on a block. It might look a little bit different on everybody. And you're gonna look towards that shoulder, trying to bring the foot towards the opposite knee. The more you twist, the more challenging or deeper the stretch will get. Keep in mind, you should be breathing and you wanna hug that knee in towards your chest. Try to keep your hips planted down on the floor, and feel free to wiggle around as much as you need to or as feels good for your body today. Feel free to drop that hip down. I see how I'm using my hip hand to just try to deepen that hip crease. and lengthen up through the leg and my chest. Think about keeping that spine long, and you can always twist and wiggle around. We're going to move on to the other side, taking that foot down underneath the other hip and lifting that knee in towards that opposite shoulder, looking towards the other shoulder, sitting up as tall as possible. This definitely looks like my tighter side, and you will not possibly have a tighter side for a long time. I've been stretching and doing Pilates for, at this point, decades, and I always just have a side that's tighter. Sometimes it changes, sometimes it stays the same. Just do your best every day. Just keep showing up and practicing, and the sides will maybe even out, but we always will have some imbalances in our body. Always respect your body, and just remember, if it feels like a sharp stabbing pain, you don't want to work into that. You want to back off a little bit and make sure you're able to breathe. If it gets to the point where you're unable to breathe, back off that stretch just a little bit. Waiting for the song. We're going to go ahead and unravel. I'm grabbing my whip because I'm Catwoman, of course, and you can always grab a yoga strap, a towel, anything really. The idea here is that we're keeping whatever we're using taut. So the wider your hands are going, the easier it will be to keep your strap or your whip tight. So make sure that your hands are the appropriate width. If you start to feel a little bit looser, you can bring your hands a little bit closer together. I'm going to give you the back view so you can take a peek at what that looks like. You want to really keep those arms long. I did get a little bit cut off with that camera angle. Sorry about that. I do film everything myself. The other thing that you want to keep in mind is you do want to keep your core engaged so you're not overarching your back to compensate for your tight shoulders. You do want to feel a stretch in your shoulders. Again, make sure you're not working past pain. We don't want to rip your shoulder. Your shoulder might be a pretty delicate joint, and you only get 2 of them. If you break one, you don't get to return it for a new one. Just keep that in mind. We're going to move into some traditional Pilates roll downs. Again, I'm keeping that strap nice and taut, and it actually will help you if you keep it taut and really focus on rolling down and up one vertebra at a time through your spine. Then to straighten the legs, if you want to make it a little bit more intense, keep in mind you should be anchoring those heels down. Try not to whip yourself up too much with the arms, and also keeping those arms up overhead also will increase the intensity. Really make sure you are articulating through that spine as much as possible. We're going to move into some leg stretches. I've got my right leg up. It might be your left leg if you're mirroring me, whichever leg it is. Just keep it as long as possible. I am not super flexible in my hamstrings, but I am going to keep that leg as long as possible. I do have a slight bend in my knee because I don't want to be in my hamstring attachments. I want to be in the belly of the muscle. And now I'm doing some leg lowers. I'm going to lower that leg down and raise it up, and notice I'm keeping my pelvis pretty anchored to my mat.
You know I got it. I pull up, I come around, make my rounds, it's my town. You know I got it. Hey. When I'm round, they now, what's up now, this touchdown like, hey, niggas from city be hating, them niggas don't show me no love. Hey, it is what it is, cause I'm brushing my shoulders, walk off with a shrug. Hey, the shit is a dub. Hey, the shit is a dub. Hey, why am I all in my feelings when I got these people that love me? Hey, I cannot feel you niggas, I only feel.
Now start to really hold and flex and point your toes. You can choke up on that strap. And I'm starting to do these windshield wipes where I'm taking the leg across from one side of my body to the other, trying to minimize the side to side, and of course going into some leg circles. If you've done them before in your Pilates routines, this is going to feel so good with the support of the strap. Now take it in the other direction. Nice deep breaths. And finally, let's take it to that figure 4 stretch. We're going to bring that ankle across the opposite knee. I'm holding onto my knee, but there's a variety of ways you can take this, and you can even just leave the foot to the floor. I'm rocking from side to side. You can stay still if that feels good. Keep your hips relatively heavy on your mat, and of course, breathe really deep.
I'm running the muck and I'm parts in the clinic. I don't do this shit for applause. Yeah, you know I got it. I pull up, I come around, make my rounds, it's my town. You know I got it. Hey.
You can take your leg up, and I'm holding it with the strap. Of course, if you're flexible enough, you can reach for the toes. And this is just another variation, bringing that opposite hamstring into play. And of course, there's a cat. Let's start to make our way out from there, and let's bring our other leg into the strap. Remember to hold wherever feels right for you, and let's start by taking that leg down and up a few times, keeping a slight bend in the knee if that feels good. The hips are heavy, the spine is relatively in its natural state, nice and neutral, and we'll start to hold that leg. Breathing in and breathing out, keeping the leg nice and long, maybe wiggling around from side to side. And from here, going into some flexing and pointing of the toes, really working from that ankle joint, bringing the toes as close as you can, possibly feeling a stretch behind the knee as you bring the toes towards you. Keep in mind, the closer your leg is towards you, when you do that, the more challenging it'll be. And going into those windshield wipers on this side, keeping that leg relatively long. Again, I'm not super flexible. You might be able to do these bigger, but keep in mind, your hips should stay relatively tight onto that mat. They should not be moving around a lot. Go ahead and start our leg circles, keeping that leg in that loop, and I'm moving my arms around just to accommodate the length of the strap. Depending on what you're using, you may or may not need to do that. Taking it in the other direction, really mobilizing my hip socket. These usually feel so good for me. I hope they feel just as good for you. Into our figure 4 stretch. Such a yummy little kitty stretch. Go ahead and take it side to side a little bit if that feels good. Wiggling around, hugging the knees in, keeping the hips heavy, and of course breathing deep and keeping the core slightly engaged. You can choose to use that opposite hand on that knee that's close to you, to push away. And now I'm taking that whip around my foot, and I'm going to start to pull that leg straight and towards me to deepen the back of the leg on that up side. And now pushing into the knee on this side, giving it a little wiggle before we come out from here. Pigeon. You can always opt to have a block underneath your hip. We're going to be here for a few minutes, so just make sure you're nice and comfy. I have the back of my toes to the mat on that back side. I'm going to have my hands underneath my shoulders, my hips nice and square. Again, nice and wiggly. I'm staying nice and lifted through my chest initially, and we're going to do some push-ups to mobilize the shoulders and the hips and the spine, of course. Exhale on that way down and inhale on that way up. Take another few movements, however feels right for you, and we're gonna come on down and take a hold. If it doesn't feel right for you to go that low, you certainly don't have to. I'm on my elbows and I'm dropping my head down, and I'll just take a few breaths in. If you wanna take your foot and bring it out towards your hip a little bit more to deepen into that external rotation, you can do that as well. If you need a block under your hip, you can do that as well. We're gonna go into some assisted variations of King Pigeon. Of course, if you can do this without the strap, go for it. I cannot. I'm using that strap around my back foot, and it's gonna open your chest and your hip. This is quite a challenging one for me. I am tight in my hips and my shoulders, and I've got my same hand back today, and I've got my opposite hand underneath my shoulder, and I'm trying to look up as much as possible, getting a big deep stretch. Use your discretion about what you do, and of course if you're able to go deeper, please do as well. We're going to roll each onto the other side and do that whole pigeon series on the other side. Out with the hands underneath the shoulders. We'll stay with our chest kind of proud, hands under the shoulders, hips nice and square, looking up. To those push-ups, bending the elbows, and the elbows can be out wide or tight to the body, yoga or Pilates style. Just want to get into the chest and the shoulders and the hips before we take it down and start our deep pigeon stretch. I'm letting my neck go, my chest go, all the way to the mat. You're welcome to take your forehead to the mat if that feels good. Let's make our way up. Grab your strap if you need it, and let's start to pull on that back foot a little bit to open up into that King Pigeon assisted variation. Try to keep your hips square, and let's try to sink into the stretch. I whip again, and we're gonna just do a little bit of upper body to close it out, kitty girls and boys. I've got my strap behind me. Of course, you can clasp your hands together, and I've got my arms nice and long, and I'm just reaching my arms up as I drop my head down and looking up and just taking my head side to side. These feel so amazing. I hope they really help you. And now I'm gonna reach into a tricep and shoulder stretch. I'm gonna try to bring my hands together behind my back. If you can do that without the strap, go for it. I really cannot. My shoulders are super tight most days. And just keep reaching your hands together as much as you can up on. Just hands together as much as you can, and you can start to wiggle forward side to side a little bit if that feels good. Same thing on the other side. Just bringing those hands as close together as you can, wiggling it out if you need to.